Well, I started in New York. I guess I came out here about 30-something years ago, so it's been about 3 or 4 decades out here, but the beginning was in New York. Just persevering. I've never thought of myself as, oh, you're a movie star. No. Thank God I'm a working actress. I wanted to be a dancer and a singer on Broadway, but I couldn't sing very well. I started out dancing. We were the Watson sisters, and I was the choreographer in New York. Harlem Hospital. I have 2 sisters, an older sister. She hates when I say that, but she's 18 months older than me. My sister Brenda, and Lorraine is our youngest sibling, who was never a child. She's a doctor now. But she was always very mature. She never really was a kid. And my brother, he was the oddball. He's the closest to me in personality. They're all in medicine. My sister's a doctor, my brother was an X-ray technician, my older sister's a nurse, and I'm the only oddball, they called me. My mother's side of the family is from West Virginia, and my father's side is from Florida. And during that migration, when they all started coming up north, that father's side and my mother's side, they both moved into this apartment building on 140th and Convent, 260 Convent Avenue. The Venables were upstairs on the 10th floor, and the Barnes were downstairs on the 3rd floor. And those were mostly men, and this was mostly women, and they kind of got together. So that's how the connection happened. Wow. Yeah, it was a trip. Because I used to wonder, I was like, wait a minute, how come Aunt Sylvia lives right on the 3rd floor and Aunt Nanny is up there? Oh, and just recently I figured all that out, what was going on in 260 Convent Avenue. My father, he worked in a hotel down on the Wilshire Hotel. That's when I came out here, I used to call it Wilshire Boulevard. Because in New York they call it the same spelling. He worked in the Wilshire Hotel, and he was also a musician. And he taught music in his later years. He taught music in high school. And we took piano lessons. All of us were, I have to say, forced to take piano, which I'm glad I did. I never was really good at it. My sister was. But it gave me at least a sense of music, and I can still play, and I know the notes and all that stuff, which is something that I'm happy I did. My mother just worked very, very hard. She was a nurse's aide at Bellevue Hospital. Most of her family worked at Bellevue Hospital in New York. She had 4 kids, and I remember her getting up 3:30 in the morning, and I see her from my window walking to that train station. She'd leave our breakfast in the oven, and we used to get up and get ourselves ready for school and get on that subway or bus and take ourselves to school. And we went down to piano lessons together. We were like 7, 8 years old. We get down on the subway station, the door open, we hold hands and rush on in there. And we took care of ourselves like that. And that was we never thought of being, bad or having friends over and all that stuff. This was normal. We live in the projects, and we had a playground. You go downstairs and you play with kids, and we played jump rope and all that stuff and Popsy. And in our apartment, when we were waiting for my mother to get home from work, you could make the hallway really dark. So we would scare each other and stuff in the hallway, or we would draw Popsy with this chalk, Williamsburg projects in Brooklyn until I was 11 years old, and then we moved to the Taft projects that were just being built in Harlem. So we were fancy, and we were on the 8th floor. The Williamsburg projects are just 4 stories high. They're still there. Somebody from my church went there and showed me my building. And there weren't many of us there, at the time. I grew up around a lot of Jewish people, a lot of Italians, and went to a Catholic school, Immaculate Conception, for that education, yes, and the discipline. And on the pictures, you could always spot us. There was just 2 of us in there. My sister was a very good student, Brenda. my oldest sister, and she was just a year ahead of me. And I wasn't that good of a student. I mean, I would study at the end of, like, when the test was getting ready to come up, I would cram. But just in the regular, I wasn't as orthodox as she was, or as disciplined as she was. So I always got, you are nothing like your sister. You're never gonna be anything. Blah, 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 blah. You know, that kind of thing. As I got older, when I went to Cathedral High School, there was a group of nuns. It was an African-American order, basically. And there was one teacher there, my math teacher, that I really, really liked. And she encouraged me in math, because I was really good in math. And I got a scholarship to go to New York University in math. Can you believe that? Went there to be a mathematician. It didn't last long, though. And we also started taking dance class when we were young, me and my sister. I think I was about 6, 7. No, maybe younger than that. In our tap class at Bernice Johnson Dance School, child. At Ruth Williams, too. Well, my godmother, Christelle, who I'm named after, that's my middle name, she lived in Queens. And she would pick me and my sister up on the weekends and take us out to her house, and she would take us to dance class. So we danced to the Apollo theme song. Dun, 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 dun. I remember the step too, child. And so we started out like that. And that's where I started dancing. And my father would always talk about every time I would go to the movies or to see anything, I'm always in the aisle dancing all the time. The only place we went to in the summer, my aunt, Juanita, used to take us to Peg Leg Bates Country Club. And we saw Jimmy Smith. I mean, he was like a regular up there, playing that organ and stuff. We thought we were hot stuff, honey. Yeah, and we had homework. We had to do our homework, child. Those nuns did not play. And my father, we had to practice every day. We had to get our 2 hours of practicing, so I didn't have much time to fool around. And he would punish us at the drop of a hat. So we locked in. He punished us for the whole summer if we did something he didn't like. Later on in life, my cousins, who, were on his side of the family, would always talk about how this nice man Uncle Walter was. And, oh, Uncle Walter was this, he was that, he was so funny. And me and my sisters look at him like, who the hell are they talking about? We didn't know this man. Because he'd see us in the street, and he would even say hi. You practice your lesson today? Well, where you going? Or something like, And I remember him coming in the house, and everything would just go quiet. Because he was very strict. But then when he got Alzheimer's and he came out here and he stayed with us, he started cracking jokes and being funny. I was like, oh, this is who they're talking about. I'm glad I got to meet him before he passed. And that's the interesting thing, because he used to downgrade my mother's side of the family, because he called them, ignorant or whatever. And because I guess they just were more fun-loving, and his side of the family was more, stuck up or whatever, and thought they were more intelligent. But I found out that his side of the family, his aunt was the one that ran the whole house uptown on Sugar Hill. Just found that out recently. Walter Jr., Brenda, and Lorraine. Me and Brenda used to fight all the time. Clothes, anything, because I used to wear her clothes. Oh, and then I was smaller than her for a long time. Even though she's 18 months older than me, she was a lot taller. She grew faster. And now we're about the same size. But I would get into fights and stuff, and then I wouldn't really fight. I would start some stuff and then go get my big sister. And that would aggravate her, that she'd always have to stick up for me all the time. Or I'd wear her clothes, or she'd have on something of mine, and we would fuss at each other. What you doing with my skirt on, girl? Blah, 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 blah. But now, we're very close, and once we separated, we got out of this, because you live tight in New York. You 2 to a bed, or 3 to a bed. It was close quarters, and you all on top of each other. So when we separated, we got along much better. I didn't want to be a nun, because that was popular then. I just liked to dance. I think I just wanted to be a dancer. I think it's just the discipline and just not being able to just do whatever the heck you want to do, and I know we had to study our catechism and stuff, and you're not so concerned about what you look like and stuff, because everybody looks the same, they got on the same clothes. And the respect that you learn, You know, you don't talk back, you speak when you're spoken to. And I think that is very important. That kind of training is very important. Kids get away with way too much. My grandson calls his teacher by his first name. I was like, what? No. You call him, if you don't know his last, Mr. John. And he went to school and got in trouble for calling him Mr. John. And, you know, and kids want to call me by my, no. Miss Vernee at least. You know what I'm saying? Oh, he was a pain in the butt. Because we used to have to pay him to not tell on us. And, you know, being the only boy in the house, oh. And he was he's smart though. I didn't know my brother was so smart. Very intelligent man. He's smarter than me, actually. But I didn't know that then. He was just a pain in the butt. And I remember he got a lot of my quarters. Or payoffs. He went to Hunter College, I know that, and that sister school for Cathedral, the one that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar went, that's where he went. My little sister, the one I told you that never grew up, we used to tease all the time. We would tell her that she was adopted because she was dark. Said, you see how dark you are? You're not one of us, you were adopted. So she was about 3 years old. One day me and my sister were watching, older sister watching television, and here comes Lorraine with some nice cold water for us. We drink it. This is good, where you get this water? Go back and get us some more water. You know where she got that water from? The toilet bowl. She got us back. And then about that dark hallway, I remember we decided we was gonna play a trick on my mother and act like we had been stabbed. So we all positioned ourselves and put ketchup on our arms and stuff, and we're laying in this hallway like this. So when she turned the light on, all she sees is this, and we got our butts ripped real good for that one. And then talk about my friends, me and my friends, we actually reminded each other of a story that they used to tell us, you can't let nobody in the house. So, you know, me and our little boyfriends and stuff. So we were on the second floor, and you could actually crawl from the staircase window to our kitchen window from outside the house. So we didn't open the door. So the guys were crawling into our kitchen window as my father came walking around the courtyard. And we got our butts whipped in. Well, the boys almost jumped off the roof. When they saw him, they were like, oh, heck no. They never really got into the house. Yeah, they stayed away from him. But we used to have gangs in New York and in Brooklyn. Some of them wore capes, and some of them, when the hoodies came out, you know, they wear a hoodie. Bishops, the Knights. They didn't have junior high and all that stuff in Catholic school. You went to elementary and then high school. We went to St. Paul's. When we came to Harlem, we had relatives closer. So we actually had, St. Paul's was on 117th Street between Park and Lexington. And we had a whole bunch of relatives on 118th Street between Park and Lexington. So I got to know them on my mother's side. And my cousin Philippa. And this was the time when we were really going to dance class a lot on Saturdays. We were practicing. Philippa joined the Watson sisters in these little performances that we gave. We studied ballet. I did point, I did tap, and jazz. Yes. But we were in point show shoes. I remember that. I love ballet. Yes. It was hard on my toes, but I love ballet. I still love it because it's good for your posture and it's so graceful. It just takes you into another place. I think that's how our bodies are supposed to be, you know. We do this and stuff, but when you do ballet, you lift and you're graceful. When I became a parent, the first thing I did was put my kids into class, to dance class. My daughter took to it immediately, and then I had the son, and he started imitating her one day in the kitchen, and I'm like, oh, really? He's doing all this? I said, okay, you're going to class next week. So he became a dancer all the way, you know, he's still dancing. I always got by, you know. I liked history. I liked reading about the pilgrims and, strange stuff though. I mean, I remember seeing potatoes in the history book and thinking about eating those potatoes. I wasn't that good of a student. I was bored a lot in school. I wanted to do other stuff. I just wanted to do other things. I enjoyed solving problems, science. I liked science too. But I just got through it. I mean, but I did my work. That's because that's what you were supposed to do. And I got my grades, and I mean, I got good enough grades to get a scholarship, a full scholarship to New York University. Just trying to enjoy life. I mean, we were around my mother's sisters and my aunts and my family, and we would have good family time, every holidays and all that stuff, and we went on cookouts, they call it. So we just had a good time. I learned how to Latin dance. I can dance better than anybody that I've been hanging out with recently when I come out here, because that's all we did. I mean, we went down to the Palladium and we saw, Tito Puente, yes, live, baby, live. You know what I'm saying? Bouncing off the walls, swinging, partner dancing, yes, love it. When I was like 14, I went out with somebody that was 17, and we're still friends today. His name was Michael McGee, but he was older than me. And actually, my father's cousin took us to a dance. A child, my mother, she used to keep an eye on us. We couldn't go nowhere without my mother finding us. We would be at a dance, and we hear over the loudspeaker, Vernee Watson, your mother's looking for you. We went out to Coney Island. My mother came all the way out there looking for us. She kept a tab on us, honey. She was on our case. She cared about us. She was protective. She did anything in the world for us. And our boyfriends, when we moved away from New York, they took care of my mother. They took her out, my mother and my aunts. I mean, they always felt very connected to my mom. I graduated at St. Patrick's Cathedral, in that big, beautiful church, Cathedral High School, and my boyfriend lived in Lincoln Projects. Well, Cathedral High School, the first 2 years you go to an annex, and that annex was All Saints on 127th Street, Madison Avenue. And my boyfriend Michael lived in Lincoln Projects, So we used to roll those skirts up, child, and go up to the projects. And my sister, Brenda, was a tattletale. She said her conscience made her tell all the time. So I would only get in trouble when she would tell on us. Besides Michael McGee, who was a big part of my life, and then my sister had a boyfriend named Plummer, and then the other one had a boyfriend named Ed. So they were kind of the center of our lives. And then I was still doing dance. And I had a good friend named Adrian. I would try to get her to hang out with me. And she said, no, I'm going to acting class. I was like, what? You mean you don't want to go do so-and-so, you have to go to acting class? She said, yeah. I said, well, I'm coming with you. And I went to acting class, and that was it. And I had tried to get jobs. I had a couple of jobs, during the holidays, packing presents at the department stores and stuff, or doing some filing. I remember falling asleep on the file cabinet and not doing very well at that. So I became interested in this acting class. And then we found out we could get paid for going to acting class with HARU Act. Okay, it was an art program in Harlem that had a dance department, an acting department. So a lot of the dancers that are here today, came up through HARU Act. And I joined a company called the Al Fan Theatrical Ensemble. It was first Al Fan and Company, then Al Fan Theatrical Ensemble. We met every night after school in the basement of St. Philip's. And that became my life. I studied, I did my homework, and I went to acting class for years. I think I was in that company for about 7 years. And we toured. We really learned. That's where those self-help books came from, because Al would teach us about Think and Grow Rich, and he taught us about the discipline of acting and being a technician, you know, because we would rehearse things over and over and over again. And I was the choreographer because I had dance training. My friend Tamu, who was Rita White then, but she changed her name to Tamu during that time, you know, she used to say how mean I was, but I don't remember that. The discipline that I grew up with, the way we learned in New York, they didn't have much concern about how we felt about it, or trying not to hurt our feelings. They just wanted us to get it. And that's the way I teach. I don't go out to hurt people's feelings, but I don't like to tap dance around the issue. You know, either it's here or it's there. It's right or it's not right. You did your homework or you didn't do it. You know, did you do your homework? No is an answer. And so we're still back where we started from last week because you didn't do your homework. So I learned that discipline from Al, you know, and doing the homework. And theater is the best place to grow up. I mean, we did tours of the South. I remember Candida, she could take a can of tuna fish and feed 8 people, you know, and we'd be cooking on the sidelines and stuff, you know. It was rough. I remember getting my first paycheck. I got $86 for going on tour. And I got home and got in the elevator, and this guy gets in there and tries to take my stuff. He had a linoleum cutter. I fought for that. I was like, man, I just got this money, you know? And I was like, well, at least give me my wallet back. And he tried to cut me, you know, but I wasn't afraid of him. You know, I just wanted my money. And it really hurt my feelings that I lost that $86. He did give me my empty wallet back, though. You know, you appreciate things when you have to work hard for it. You know, and then I was in New York University, and I had gotten the scholarship, like I said, to major in math. But I was the only African American and the only woman in all of my classes. Bored out of my mind. So I transferred over to the School of the Arts. I had teachers like Olympia Dukakis, Lloyd Richards. I had a ball, and I was learning, I was growing, and then I started working. You know, I did Cotton Comes to Harlem, my first film, and I was an extra. They gave me a line out there in the heat. We were Free Deke O'Malley.
Free Deke O'Malley! Shut up, white boy! I'm talking about my money! Me and my family put up $1,000, and we ain't heard from it since.
You please don't do something, we will.
You know, with the chickens and all, we were out there in August in Harlem with the Black Panthers keeping watch because there was a lot of racism and all that stuff going on around there. I think Al and Samuel Golan Jr., him and Al were good friends, and he asked if the ensemble wanted to do extra work, and that's how we got it. And I got a line, and that's how I got my SAG card, baby. I was like 16 years old. Yep, and since then I just been working, you know, praise God. I think it's good that you learn that discipline and things aren't handed to you. You had to fight to walk on the sidewalk in New York, you know, fight for space. You got to fight to get on the train. Not fight, but I mean, you have to assert yourself. And here you get in the back seat of the car and turn the AC on, and mommy, can you da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, come on. We did King Heroin, because heroin was a big problem in Harlem at the time. So we created a play called King Heroin. There were some good lessons in that play and characters that I had to play. That gave me the experience of performing in front of people, where we did a lot of poetry. We learned about Langston Hughes. We did a lot of his poetry, and Paul Laurence Dunbar. Then I did Raisin in the Sun. I did Beneatha. That was very educational for me and helped me to grow. And commercials, I started doing commercials. Me and Adam Wade, I got together with Adam Wade, and they called us the dynamic duo, because he's like a workaholic. Aside from Al, he taught me that discipline, because in New York, you could walk the streets. I used to put my little makeup on and get my portfolio that you carry, and go knock on agents' doors. You know, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Because in New York, you didn't sign with a particular agent. the agents would send you out like freelancing. And if you were good, they would fight over you to submit you on stuff. But you would have to visit them and say hi and let them know that you were there. My look was kind of all-American Negro. You know what I mean? I wasn't too radical or anything. So I had that P&G look. When I started, I never took classes for commercials, but because I was very aware on set, I wouldn't want to mess up. I make sure I put that product where it's supposed to go. You know, I'm polite to everyone and respect everyone's position, and I go in there not thinking that, oh, I got this job, I can do what I want. No. You know, if the director gives you a direction, you listen and you try to correct it. And if you're stumbling over a word, you know, you don't go crap or curse about it. You practice that word. So the next, when they say roll again, you know, you can say it and move on with the day. My focus was to get the job done and to work together with it still is, to work together with everyone, because it takes everybody to make a production and to make it happen, and to do your job the best you can, listen to those directions, and get the job done. So people like working with me. That's why I started booking a lot. A Pampers commercial with Hope Clark, Droopy Drawers. That was the name of the commercial. And when I found out how much commercials pay, and you only had to work a day or so, I was like, So I wrote a book called Commercials Just by Speed, a book for adults, and then I had one kids in the TV commercial biz for the children. I mean, come on. And when I was in New York University, my classmates, they told me I was selling out because I was doing commercials. How could you do that? You know, don't you love the arts and da-da-da? I'm like, you know, that word love is tossed around too much, you know? It's just about being a professional. And why shouldn't I want to make money? You know, I still respect the art, as you can see, you know, that I'm still here and I'm still working, you know, so I didn't let that bother me. But I'm glad I learned work ethic. I have a good work ethic. Because I tried to be a professional dancer. You know, I could never sing. I mean, they always told me I was loud, and my sister was like, Vernee, please shut up. I mean, I could hit a note, but I could never harmonize, but I was always loud. I tried to actually go into dancing, and my knees couldn't take it. I had to wear braces or whatever if I wanted to go into dancing. So I said, well, I'll just act. I majored in math for 2 years, and I couldn't take it no more. So then I went to the School of the Arts. In my second year of the School of the Arts, so I actually went to NYU for almost 4 years. But in my second year, I started getting auditions, and they didn't like for me to miss class. So I took a leave of absence to work, because I was figuring, I mean, what am I studying for? I'm studying to work. And then I never got a chance to go back, but I did continue studying. I went to American Place Theater and studied with Win Handman for about 3 or 4 years. Richard Gere was one of my scene partners. We did Looking for Mr. Goodbar, and Brad Davis. All these people were in my class with me, and he was a great teacher. Alfan used to talk a lot and preach to us a lot, and you know, a lot of verbiage and things, which was good. Sandra Sharp, S. Pearl now, Larry Jacobs, Chip Fields, Candida Mobley. A lot of people came up through Alfan. But when Hammond would, you know, you do your scene work and stuff, and he would just listen, and he would just give you a couple of little notes that meant so much. You just had to really listen to him. And if you were no good, he'd fall asleep on you. You look over there, he'd be sound asleep. But he was a great teacher because he could pick out what you needed to learn. And he told me at one point, he said, I don't have anything else to teach you. I came out here because they said I was overexposed in New York. I had done over 200 commercials. And they would start asking for Vernee Watson types, but they didn't want to see me because, you know. So my agent said, well, her name was Haran Jaffe. She said, why don't you try to go out to California? So I said, okay. So I was going to go to Mexico for a little vacation. I had saved up my little ducats, and I stopped here. And the part for Welcome Back, Kotter, Larry was doing Welcome Back, Kotter at the time, and they were looking for a girlfriend for him, right? Verna Jean. And an agent that I had known in New York, Martin Gage, because out here you have to have representation. You can't just freelance. So I wanted him to represent me. I said, I want to go up for this part for the teenager. He said, Vernee, you too old. Hard up for that teenager. I said, okay, how about this? I'll go get the job and I'll bring it back to you. And will you represent me then? He said, yeah. So that's what I did. I went and got the job and I brought it back to him, and he's been my agent for like 40 years. I think maybe Larry set that up for me. You know, I tried to do my little teenager thing. I'd have my little afro and put my little barrettes on the side and put me some gum and stuff. And I was, because, you know, I went to Catholic school, so I didn't know nothing about no public school, but it was fun playing that, you know, and wearing regular clothes and stuff. So I just went down there and had a ball and just played with it and got the part. I wasn't young neither. John Travolta was the youngest person on there. Never got to Mexico. I stayed here. I didn't like it so much at first because you just sit around and you wait for your agent to call. I wasn't used to that. I was used to hitting that pavement every day, you know, and just sitting around. It's like, Vernee, just take it easy. We'll call you. And so I had to learn patience and to trust that process. And in the meantime, you acquire a lot of friends. I kind of started realizing how people were out here. You know, they just kind of want to be your friend for what they can get from you or whatever, you know. And I had a lot of friends, and I was paying this one's phone bill and paying this one's car note and this and that. People would just drop for convenience, you know, and let's do lunch and blah, blah, all this stuff. And then when a lot of us from New York started to migrate, those are the people that I really connected with, you know, my old friends. I got a few new friends here, but not many. These people that I've known for a long time. Well, yeah, and then after I had kids, you know, they started seeing me on television, especially after Fresh Prince. I couldn't go back to Harlem. I mean, it was just like, hey, Vernee, you remember me? You know, it's people just all in your face and all, they don't care. And then I had gotten adjusted more to just chilling in between those jobs. But then I started teaching also. So I had to do something, you know. It's interesting that, well, they were all very funny guys and very wild on the set. I mean, I don't know how we got any work done. And they had a lot of freedom, you know, and they would do things that they really should not have done maybe, but they got away with it because the show was a hit. I learned about playing to the camera and having an audience participation, you know, that was like doing a play in front of the audience, but it was filmed. So that's a whole different energy. And hitting that joke. You know, because if you do a read or a run through and you don't hit that joke, it's cut. Or you don't play it, you know, with that timing. So I was learning that comedic timing and stuff during those times. And I tried to absorb everything, you know. I got married when I was on Welcome Back, Kotter. And it didn't turn out well. I didn't really know who I was marrying. I mean, I knew who he was, but I didn't know all about him. So I ended up using my little savings that I had saved up, trying to rectify that situation. And it wasn't a good situation for me. I went through a lot. It didn't last long. I got out, I tried to get an annulment, but I think I stayed married for about 18 months or so. We did a couple of years. The toy productions, Turtle Tops, and those guys really worked me a lot. They liked me and I was so happy. Turtle Top, Ornstein, and Yorkin. Bud Yorkin, Bernie Ornstein, and Saul Turtletop. Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels.
The secret. Now, no one can stop me.
Yes, again, Mr. Beamer, the Teen Angels. And Captain Caveman will stop you. Go get him, Cavey.
Captain!
have a silk screen from that. Mel Blanc was Captain Caveman, the original Bugs Bunny man. Unbelievable. And I mean, I would just marvel at him. He would come in there, and sometimes he had to do pickups from other shows. And I would see him, he'd come in there with his little cup of coffee and sit down, and he would go through a script. He might be doing 4 or 5 different characters. And instead of doing one character at a time, he would just switch voices in between lines. I was just like, wow. I had to audition for it. I spent a lot of time on the road in my car and running to auditions and stuff, and you just can't give up. And sometimes you sit in you go to an audition room and you never know what they're looking for, but they can tell you, we want a certain type. But you can talk yourself out of it in the audition room, looking at other people. Oh, they called her in. I know they don't want me. I know. You look at it and you just talking yourself out of it. You just have to. I tell people, when you get to that audition room, you can be looking at your script. You find you a nice, quiet place to go over those lines. And when you get your copy, you have to say it out loud. You can't just do it in your head. Because when you start talking out loud, it's a whole different, your brain hasn't heard it. It heard it inside, but it didn't hear it outside. And you got to practice that stuff. Instead of socializing and hobnobbing and talking about, I'm working on this or ooh, child, I ran into a whole bunch of that. Everybody got a project going on here and there. Okay. My project, I started having children, so, that's my life. That was my life.
You said that all you needed was a little break to be on your way again. You were never there in the first place. How can you be on your way again?
Okay, so I didn't write him about the cheap touring carnivals. Instead, I wrote him about vacationing in the Bahamas. When I was really laid up with 4 broken bones in a Des Moines hospital. And yes, one jump doesn't put me in the big time. I'll still have to struggle to establish myself, but at least I'll have some kind of a name after that jump.
If you survive. The point is that Darius expects you two to get together permanently. Now, what are you going to tell him after this jump? Thanks, son. I'll see you around.
Well, it wasn't fair for Darius to assume we'd get back together.
Fair? What is fair? He's 11 years old. He needs a father.
The time will come. Listen, this is just the start. It's the beginning of the dream.
Oh.
I remember that we were on this balloon, the balloon? There's the balloon! Well, they put us in this little thing. I'm scared of heights. And we were way up on some mountain cliff at the beach. And Scott Baio was in the little basket with us and some other little kids. And they thought it was funny to shake the basket. Well, they got a little cussing out. Because I was not playing up there. I remember that. I remember being in the jungle with Ralph Bellamy on one of the episodes. I was a student and I was doing my thesis on something and I had to interview him or had to go on an adventure with him in the jungle. So I remember that, and I remember hanging out the night before and going to work like straight from hanging out and almost throwing up on set because I was so hungover. They were making spider webs or something and the smell of this stuff was just making me sick, but I got through it. And I ran into Ralph Bellamy at Whole Foods years later. And I was like, hi, do you remember me? I worked with you. He was like, yeah. Oh, okay. And I felt like, I was like, oh my God, that's still what people do to me sometimes. I felt so bad.
You had no right to bring him here.
Well, I'm afraid you are mistaken. I didn't bring the great Scott
What
here.
a gentleman. Such a sweet man. He's such a sweet man. He was wonderful. Wonderful. I have been very fortunate to not have run into abusive or arrogant people. I worked with Greg Morris. He was a perfect gentleman. And the older ones, they're just so nice. I've run into some really nice people. And I don't know if it has to do with their talent or their upbringing as a human being. I think it has to do with that, how they had to work to get there and what their parents taught them. I've had some issues with a couple of people that have been recently brought to trial and stuff, and I don't have to mention any names, but being a New Yorker, I handled myself and I put them in their place, so it never got any further. Hector Elizondo was on Foley Square. He's an amazing actor and really cool man. I remember that time I had that, I drank too much coffee. That was fun. I mean, that was the episode, and I had the jitters and stuff. That was pretty funny. That's my mama.
555-4841.
Hi, I'm Earl. Wait a minute, excuse me. Bye, Junior. I'm Earl Chambers, baby.
And I'm Thelma Wilkins, a product representative for Witherspoon Enterprise.
Sorry, we don't need no spoons.
You don't understand. You see, Witherspoon is a cosmetics firm. And right now, we have a new line of exquisite barbershop products, and they're called Midnight Madness.
Oh. I'm sorry, but I learned at Bubba's Barber College, vice proprietor don't buy nothing. Yeah.
Hey, man, I understand. Well, I guess I might as well go.
I guess so.
You know, I knew this job wouldn't work out. They never do.
Oh, wait a minute, sister. What you talking about, baby?
Well, you see, today's my first day with Witherspoon, and every barber that I've met has said no. No one's even allowed me to give them a free demonstration.
Ted and I are still friends. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. That was early days. And I did Good Times. And it was interesting because during that time there were a lot of black people on television. There were a lot of black comedies on television. And I was observing those who kind of thought they deserved all this, and that gratitude wasn't totally there. It was like, I'm the star and I can have things my way. And some of us did not make the best decisions in how to handle the wealth and the attention, and it kind of caused some people not to be able to work as much later on. Just because you getting a paycheck doesn't mean that you're all that fabulous and that you can't be replaced, and you just can't do whatever you want. And then the work, interestingly enough, the work becomes the last thing that they deal with. I don't understand how you can get a paycheck and then come on set and not know your lines. What else you getting paid for? So, all that other Hollywood stuff that goes around, that's secondary to the job that you're doing. So when I was doing, I think it was Carter Country or something, and then What's Happening was going on, and Seinfeld was going on, and all the Seinfeld people got bikes, but all the What's Happening people just got boom boxes, and everybody locked themselves out of their dressing rooms and all this. I'm like, come on, y'all. This ain't gonna last forever. Be grateful, and just take this and do the best that you can. So what? Buy your own daggone bike. Kind of in their own little worlds, their own little stardom worlds, and nobody communicated with each other. It was very strange. I talked to everybody. I mean, if you talk to me, I'll talk back, or I try to make conversation. I didn't know the protocol or the tension or whatever, so I just come in there like, hey, da, 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 and I'm like, okay, all right, this is the way y'all roll, I mean, what other? It's like the show that I'm on now. Everybody is so grateful to be there. You're getting paid to come to do something that you love to do. Why are you complaining? Or what's the attitude about? And I know how things can be snatched from you. You know what I'm saying? It don't last forever. And they realize that after it's taken away. But I don't know, just that dollar makes you feel like you're above life. That's why people say, you're a movie star. No star. I'm not up there. I'm just a working actress. Thank you. And I appreciate that you appreciate my work, but I'm just a normal person. But you can't grow without humility. If you think you know everything, you ain't gonna grow. And you gotta respect the PA. You gotta respect the AD, the craft service people. My son, this is crazy. He was, when he was going to high school, the teacher said, we were doing this film, and since you're in the business, I was asking the kids what part they want to play. And I just knew your son was going to say, oh, I want to be the director. I want to be the star. She said, you know what he picked? I said, what? She said, craft services. I said, because he know where the food is. He don't care, and he was doing some Nickelodeon show, and the kids got cut from the show, and they had been rehearsing and everything, and he's like, we still getting paid? I said, yeah. He said, okay, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that he understands that. It's not all about the flim-flam and all that.
Mr. Jefferson, you aren't by any chance worried about your looks, are you?
Oh, what makes you say that?
Look, I understand you're a little worried about getting older. You put on a few pounds and hair is thinning a little bit.
Oh, come on, Kyle. You so far off base. Do you really notice the thinning?
Maybe a little, but a receding hairline gives a man an intelligent forehead.
Unfortunately, mine's getting more intelligent every day.
Honestly, Mr. Jefferson, when are you men going to realize that many women find mature men very attractive? I do.
I was supposed to be the little hot secretary, and that was coming up during that time, the TNA look, the tits and ass, right? Excuse me. But I didn't have that. And so a lot of jobs I didn't get because of that. But on the Jeffersons, I was supposed to be this person, so they put this and this on me. And I remember sitting and getting up, and the butt was still up here somewhere. I popped Red Fox in the face one time, too. I was doing Norman, Is That You, the movie. And he used to call me Beady Eyes. But he walked by me. I was walking past him, and he just thought that he could just grab me in my crotch. And he got a backhand. Quickly. I was on the pilot, A Different World.
Hi, Denise.
Hi, Carla.
Well, who do we have here?
Oh, well, this is my brother, Theo. Theo, this is Carla Myers, our dorm director.
Pleased to meet you, Miss Myers.
The pleasure's mine, Theo. Denise, I like him already. He has manners.
Yeah, I think I'll keep it.
So are you thinking about following in your sister's footsteps and coming to Hillman?
And I got pregnant after the pilot. I got pregnant with Josh during the time when we didn't know whether the show was going to be picked up or not. And right before, while I was doing the pilot, I was on set, and my handsome husband at the time, Van, came on the set, and the executive producer saw him. And, Van was just kind of standing over to the side and stuff. He's like, who is that? I said, that's my husband. And then I think Van walked away, and he grabbed me in my crotch, the executive producer. And I said, you are just another you-know-what. Right there. And then the show got picked up, and they told me that I did 6 episodes, but then they decided to release me from that. And luckily my agent got a year's salary from them for breaking the contract because I was with child. And they've worked around it before, but I was okay about not working on that because I had not a good experience. He's a nice man. He's very funny. He was, and very professional. He came up during that time of those actors that knew what you had to go through. You know what I mean? And he appreciated where he was. So I respected him a lot for that. They know their craft. They're open to keep learning and developing, because whatever you're into, doctor or lawyer, whatever, it changes. So you have to keep up with the times and you have to keep studying. You respect your craft, you respect those around you, and you do your work. I always come from, I try to come from a sense of, yes, I am very grateful. Whatever this role is, I'm grateful that I have it. How can I do my job? What's the best way for me to do my job? Figure out what this character is about. Yes? I have to do my homework. I can't just, a lot of people get the job and then they forget about doing the homework. Well, I got the job now, child. I'll just go on in there, I'll get them lines. No, you come in there ready. And then when you get on set, just like I said before, you respect everybody's position. You know what I'm saying? And you try to work out your little business. And don't just sit there and crack jokes and blah, 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 and talk crap until it's time for you to shoot. And where are we? You know, what page we on? That's not funny. You know, you do your work. What you getting paid for? So I try to do my homework. And when I started doing that soap opera, you talk about some homework and some lines. I mean, I don't mind. I had to hire somebody to run lines with me, and I don't mind saying it. You know, give me those lines, because when I get on that set, I want to play that like a song. You know what I mean? I hear my speeches like music. You know, they have crescendos, and then they have, you know, parts where you don't know what's gonna happen, and you know what I'm saying? So, and the only way you can do that is if you know it. Otherwise, you think of the words. You're looking at you in your brain. You're seeing those words on the page, or you're not seeing those words on the page. You can't find your character unless you do your work. And listening to the other people, not just, you know. I try to learn the whole scene. And not just what I'm saying, because a lot of actors, you know, he say something, I say something, then I say. But that's all they're waiting for is what they say. No, there's no listening. So you have to be ready to spontaneity on the set, and you can find things. When you know what you're doing, things happen, you know. It's like that sixth sense, you remember learning that? Yes? Your ego is something else, boy. It can get in the way of a whole lot of stuff. A lot of it just comes from insecurity too. And as long as I've been in this business, I told the girl on the show, I said, I still get nervous doing run through. You know, because I'm trying to make that work. I'm trying to get that laugh. Or I just hope that I can stay grounded enough to stay in the moment and not worry about getting a laugh so that it comes out real. And I think it's good to get that little nervous energy, you know, because then I'm focusing, you know, I'm there, and my attention is there. So I guess I've always had insecurity in my work, which keeps me trying to do it better. I've never been to, I'm just good, so I'm just going, you know, I can do this. Just give me the script, you know, let's roll it. You know, I never felt that. And I'm always afterwards, how was that? You know, did I give you what you want? Is that okay? Right. And I'm open for direction. You ain't gonna hurt my feelings telling me that it sucked. You know, you're gonna help me. So I'm open for that. I feel like everyone did not handle that era well, like I said. And it kind of made it hard for producers to want to work with us, you know, because of that. And then we got a new influx of producers. I mean, and the Black experience is a story. You can't ignore it. So when they've started to come back to us and include us in that, I think this field of actors and actresses is another generation. I did this movie called Love, Savage, Fury. Anyway, I was a slave and we were down in Mississippi. And we were working on a plantation. And the actress, we were very good friends. I mean, we became friends. I just treat people like people, you know, and I try to get along with everybody. And they stopped me when I was going, excuse me, you can't go in here. you can't go into the house. Who are you with and all this stuff. So I said, you know, when they finally found out that I'm in the daggone movie, so I get in there, and this mansion doesn't have air conditioning, so they come to me and hand me a fan and tell me to fan her, you know, like I'm really her servant. And she took the fan and started fanning me, you know, that kind of stuff. And they would call me girl or whatever, and we went out, the whole crew, we all went out to a club, and I'm on the dance floor with one of the crew guys who is white, you know, and everybody just, what you doing dancing with that nigga woman and all this kind of stuff, you know. And I think it wasn't just me they were prejudiced against, but even the white crew members because of that. And, you know, when I say when I was younger, going to the South with our fan and theatrical ensemble, we experienced that a lot. There were some places we couldn't go into and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It kind of saddens me that people are that ignorant. I've always been just grateful to God that I have been able to be in their lives, that I didn't have to pass them off to somebody or get a nanny or anything to, you know, so I've always been able to work and take care of them. And I had my mother alive for a long time, then she would, you know, so they're the joy of my life. Sunday, Jenya Johnson, now it's Thomas, and Josh Elliott Johnson. They both were dancers. Sunday was a beautiful dancer. And, you know, Josh being a boy, his dad didn't want him to go into dancing for the last thing, you know. Like I said, he was imitating her one day, and I put him in dance class. He was like 7 years old. He didn't like the technical part of dancing, you know, like the ballet bar and stuff, because he never wanted to flick his wrist. You know what I'm saying? He was not that kind of dancer. And Otis Salid taught him how to dance like a man. And it was on and popping after that. When he found out that he could be who he was and still be this graceful 6'4" dancer and be straight, and you know what I'm saying? And he's just amazing to watch to me, because he has a humble spirit. He has that same spirit and that appreciation for the art. I had to bring him back from New York to graduate, because he was already at Ailey under scholarship, you know. So he didn't go to college. He started in Ailey. When he was 9 years old, he told me that he would never leave me until he was 35 years old. I used to have to tuck him into bed and give him a kiss goodnight for him to go to sleep. And when he was 17 years old, he was gone. He was in New York on his own. And he was with Alvin Ailey, and then he took himself to Europe and roughed it for a couple of weeks, auditioning for the Forsyth Company over there, and got into the Forsyth Company. He was living in Germany 8 years with the Forsyth Company, and now he's in Switzerland, working at a theater there, putting on productions and stuff. He was appreciative of Ailey, but his creative spirit is a little bigger than that and broader, so they do more improvisational things and creative things, you know. And he's given me the opportunity to go all over the world to watch him perform. I mean, good grief. I've been to Paris, I've been to Germany, I've been to Italy, you know, to see him perform. It's just wonderful. And I meet such great people. And just, you know, meeting other people aside from Americans. And people are just so real. And it just makes me love the human race more. It gave me a reason to work, you know. It's like this is what I'm doing this for, you know. And it has not been easy. My accountant said, I don't know how. There's many times he said, Vernee, I don't know how you do it. You don't know where that next check is coming from. And I didn't. I don't. I still don't. Baby talk, and it was a voiceover thing. The Fresh Prince.
I will see.
Maybe whatever it is, I will understand.
I know you'll understand. Then I'll be on my way to the emergency room.
Oh, well, just say it.
Mom, I don't want to move back home.
How can you say that? Baby, when I sent you out here, it was only on a temporary basis. I always expected you to come back home.
I didn't know who the Fresh Prince was, child. I had to ask my children. So they asked me to go, come play or audition for the mother, and I can't remember all the actresses that were there. So it was just another job to me, and I cannot believe it's become like I Love Lucy or something. I mean, it's a staple for our society, this role. And Will, like I say, I'm a kind of not a workaholic, but I like to rehearse. And he didn't particularly want to rehearse. There were some times where he didn't want me to hug him so much or whatever. I'm like, man, I'm your mama. This is, so, but he's a sweet man. And now when I see him, he picks me up and turns me around and mama and stuff. And I've met his real mother. But those guys, they cut up on that set, child. And we had some good times. Will worked so hard. He not only starred in the show, but he would warm up the audience. And we would get all done up in our little makeup and stuff, and he would have us all come to his room, turn on some music, and we would party. So we come out of there sweating and having to get our makeup done again and stuff, but everybody was happy. And him and Alfonso, they clowned around so much. I don't know how we got anything done. And when the sisters were on, it was just always a big party. It was just a lot of fun. And people ask me, how's Will? To me, because I had kids at home, so I would go to work to get some rest. For me to, if my lines were cut or I wasn't complaining. A lot of actors get upset. Oh, they cut my lines. I'm like, good. I don't have to say, I don't have to worry about that. I stay in my room and do my stuff and come out and do my work. I had a great time on that show, and I love working with the other people. I think we wasted a lot of time. Then the thing happened with Janet, and she came from Broadway. And she's a Broadway star. But in this situation, Will was the star. So that was a problem for her. And when she got pregnant, those hormones going, it was some rough times on that set. And she was so good. I mean, she was so freaking good. And she was so talented, her body, she's just a beautiful person. And she played the heck out of that role. He knew my name when I met him. I thought that was really cool. Lena Horne knew my name. When I saw her, I went to see her at Dorothy Chandler, and she comes out of her dress, she said, Vernee Watson. I was like, ah! I did a show for Disney, Jessie, and we found out like 2 days, it was a special guest star, and they black out. At the table read, we found out this guest star was Michelle Obama. I was like, oh my gosh. And they cleaned the soundstage. I ain't never seen them clean the soundstage. I mean, they cleaned that soundstage. And they had security and, not too many people are gonna be on the set, and there's no pictures, no da-da-da-da-da, blah, blah, blah. And my scene was with her, So we had been practicing, and she comes into the thing, and she walks into the room, and she goes, when she looked at me, I was like, oh my God. She knew who I was. I was just so happy, and she's taller than me, and she had a lot of lines. But she's very comfortable in herself. And she started, I was saying some lines to her, and I was just staring at her and forgot where I was, and she started improvising. I was like, go ahead, girl. And I was like, I said, they told us we couldn't take no pictures and stuff. She said, girl, get your camera. So I gave her my little instant camera. The guy's like, really? You want me to take a picture with this? But she took a picture with me. She took pictures with everybody on the set. She sent me a framed picture of her hugging me, and then she autographed. She sent it to my home later. Oh, it was just wonderful. So it makes me feel good that people have seen me. You know, they recognize me. Just like, you look familiar, you know? I was like, yeah, I've been in your living room and in your bedroom, on your TV, of course. All My Children. I think that's what it was. I did a few episodes of that. And then when I came out here, I think I did a couple of other I did General Hospital, and then I did Young and Restless as a homeless alcoholic. Daytime television is kind of like factory television, you know? The sets are very quiet, and the actors barely move. The cameras do most of the movement. You have very little time to rehearse. You get your script, you go in there, the director says, okay, from this line to this line, you're standing there, and then you move to this, and blah, blah, blah. That's your rehearsal. And the next time you say the lines, and not unless you pull somebody aside and say, let's run these lines, you're in front of the camera. Made up everything, okay, let's rehearse it once, and we shoot. But I had fun playing that role. She was a character, so I had fun doing that. Love, Savage Fury. I played a slave. Jennifer O'Neill, that was her name. She starred in the movie. I went up for Roots, but they said I wasn't grassroots enough. But I remember being hung on a stake in the film. I was trying to escape, and for my punishment, they put me on a stake. I was tied to a stake, and the only thing that was holding me up was a very narrow bicycle seat. That was very painful. I was glad to get down from there. And that was, during that time, we did that in Mississippi, and we experienced quite a bit of racism while we were down there. Violation of Sarah McDavid.
But I have been subbing for 2 years.
Subbing is not like being a full-time teacher. I'll give it to you as the pits, but here you're on the front lines full-time. Hey, come here. Let me see some ID. Who's your homeroom teacher? Do you belong on this campus? Hey, Brian, I think you don't belong.
I was playing a teacher, and most of my scenes were with Mrs. Patty Duke, yes. It was interesting. Me trying to get the best out of the situation would always ask the actor or whoever I was working with if we could rehearse. And she never really did want to rehearse with me. And then I got some notes about my wardrobe, that I needed to change my wardrobe because the colors were too bright or something. I was like, okay. He wanted me to be naked in the bed, and I was like, no, you know, so I always try to protect myself. He wanted me to take the bodysuit off, no. And then the hotel I was in, he was always trying to get into my room. And Ted Lange came to my room one night, and I was like, Ted, why don't you stay for a little while? And recently he even told me, he said, I thought you were like, you know, finally gonna give me a shot here, right? And then Mel came, which he always did, come to my room. And he saw Ted, and that deterred him. So he left. And I told Ted, okay, now you can leave. He's like, oh, so that's why you wanted me here. But I actually had to get my room changed. I had to go to another hotel. I was honored to be able to work with Denzel on Antwone Fisher. Auditioned. He was actually in the audition room, and he, you know, the whole phone conversation when Antwone calls Auntie on the phone, That was one of the audition scenes. And Denzel, being the actor that he is, he was into it. He's like, okay, so you're right here, and you're on the phone, and then, you know, I'm gonna say action, and you're gonna do the, you know, da-da-da. And he would, he's like, okay, action. I mean, he was all into it. I mean, I was really hoping that I get it. And plus his daughter was one of my students, you know, but I knew that wasn't gonna help, you know, but I was hoping I get it because I just wanted to work with him. And it was a good role. And this was his first directing thing. So we get on the set and we're in Cleveland, and there's a big, we're in a brownstone, and he's directing us. And when we drove up, there weren't very many people there when we got there in the morning, but later on he came on the set, and we hadn't gone back outside and stuff, and he was saying, okay, so Vernee, when they come to, you hear the door knock, and then you go over to the door and you open the door and you go, Denzel! Everybody's like, the crowd of people was a swarm. He's like, okay. But, and the other thing is that you had to know your character. You know, he comes up to you on the set and he got kind of close to me. I was like, okay, if you want me to listen to you, maybe you better back up a little bit because I can't take it, child. So he says, so here, your character is dealing with what? And he would leave that open end. So you got to do your homework. And I love that about him. He was very into it. He was not afraid. It wasn't about him being in the movie. He worked harder with the other characters than on his role. He's a very giving person and professional, you know. It was a treat. It was a treat.
Since when do you care what I need or don't need?
Stella, I have done my fair share of mistakes, but you haven't walked in my shoes.
Oh.
Whatever you think about me, I have never done anything intentionally to hurt anyone.
So sleeping with another man, having his child, and pretending he was your husband, that just happened by itself. I don't need to walk in your shoes. I know what kind of woman you really are. And now they all know it too. The person they trust with their lives is a dishonest, lying, faithless Jezebel.
This audition came at a time when my checking account was pretty low. So it was like, I want this job. Plus the writing. I was like, wow, this is a soap opera? And the audition, there were about 10, 12 pages to learn. And believe me, I learned that part. And I studied it. So when I got to the audition room, I see my compadres there, as usual. Everybody's kind of chit-chatting, except me. I'm just focused. I said, I'm going in there to get this job. I was, you know, I went in there and I wasn't taking any prisoners. I was very serious. When you write, when you get the material, you know, like a good play. Like I say, it's like a symphony. You know what I mean? It's just... And if you are an actor, then you recognize that and you take advantage of it. And they gave me a chance to do some things that I don't get to do. You guest on a show, you might have 8 lines. But here you have scenes and scenes of stuff. And I took advantage of it. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad they appreciated it. And they wrote for me and they gave me conflict to deal with and stuff, and those characters I was working with. The first Emmy, so I'm on the show about 5 months, and I'm outside running my lines, you know, and stuff, walking up and down, and the producer is walking by. She says, oh, Vernee, we're gonna submit you for an Emmy. I was like, really? She said, yeah. I said, what are you using? She says, well, we have some pieces that we're going to, you know, some clips. I said, well, you might want to look at what I'm doing today. And they did, and that's what they submitted. See, that year, they submitted me. I've never submitted myself on any of that. I mean, I won an Emmy long time ago on Whack Attack, Angel Dust of Whack Attack. I won an Emmy for that. They submitted the clip that I suggested, and I won. I mean, I don't like going to award ceremonies and stuff because you got to wear high heels and all this stuff. But I had gotten a dress when I went to see my son in Paris. I had got this cute little dress. I said, oh, I'll wear that. And then I had to find the shoes. And they told me that they don't feed you very well at the Emmys. You know, they give you drinks and stuff. And I'm about my food. Can't be messing around with my food. And so I had stuffed a sandwich in my pocket. There was a little flare dress. And I had a sandwich in this pocket and some chips in here. And, you know, I was ready. It was a long night and I had a drink and I was sitting there kind of falling asleep. And my agent's like, Vernee, your category's coming. I was like, oh, okay. And by that time, the camera's right there because I'm a nominee. I was just, you know, whatever. I'm not going to. And then I'm looking at it and I see the first thing and the second, and I'm like, I might have a shot at this. But I didn't want to, you know. But there it was. There it was. You don't find out till right then. Yeah, child, I had to tip up there and get my little Emmy, and she was heavy as I don't know what. I was like, wow. I was trying to stuff that stuff in my pocket because I didn't want my sandwiches and stuff to fall out. So I was walking now. I was chipping in my little heels and stuff, in my little dress. I didn't expect to win. I'm glad that I did. And I want to remember to thank my agents who believed in me, and Amy and Bel for submitting me for this role. And the writers, I told them earlier, they do an incredible job on that show. You know, you can't do the work unless the writing is good. And poor Vanessa, who has to put up with
Poor Vanessa.
Poor Vanessa.
Poor Vanessa.
I tell you, I have to apologize to her.
Focusing only on the past is preventing us from connecting as a family.
Ooh, family's important, but only when it's convenient for you.
That's not true.
Oh, really? What about that time when your son was going through a rough patch? First chance you get, you ship him off to live with a man he barely knew. You didn't send him to family. To me?
That's not
No,
fair.
you sent him to a man who killed his father.
Sean was his father. That's not fair.
TJ didn't know that. None of us did. Thomas was the only father he'd known. But it got too hard for you to try to handle TJ alone, so you just took the ease.
Yes, and it's like doing a ballet. You know, you ride those moments, and when the directors give you the opportunity to do that, and you have to know your material first.
Right.
You got to study.
Yeah.
So when that happens, when all those things come together, it's a lot of fun. And when I got up there, I said, you know, I'm very happy to have this, but you know what this means? I said, this means, I took this to my class and I told my students, I didn't get this from being on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. You know, I'm not even on that stuff. I did this because I did the work. That means that my peers recognize my work ethic. And that's what's important. So that's what this means to me. I'm on Bob Hart's Abishola.
I'm looking for a nurse. Her name is Abishol. I wanted to thank her.
She's not on right now.
Do you have her address?
Oh, I can't give that out.
Would a pair of socks change your mind?
Honey, you in Detroit? You need to give me some money.
Billy Cardell and Falake. It is such a wonderful, refreshing show to be on. Chuck Lorre has kept me working for the past 15, 20 years. I think the first thing that I remember doing with him was Grace Under Fire. And then on to Big Bang, I did the pilot twice. So, but he kept me recurring on that, and 2.5 Men and Young Sheldon. So when they called me for this, they called me to do a table read, to sit in on a table read, and I couldn't do it because I was doing General Hospital. And I said, well, you know, Chuck knows my work. I hope he forgives me, you know. So when they did the network read, he said, yeah, tell us you got the job. Just come on and do the read for us. I was like, what? So I was guest starring, though. I guest starred on the pilot, and
Billy Cardell, he remembered me from Mike and Molly because I did the last of their show as well. And he was like, are you on this? I told my brother, I said, I'm acting just like you. Because he's real dry humor. I have been teaching young people. I try to teach adults. Adults have too many excuses. They want you to have class at night and you prepare. I don't do well at night anyway, in my older age. And then they don't show up. So I was like, forget it. I think I'm gonna try to go back to that, but I've been teaching kids for over, almost 40 years. I had my own school with Al Fan's wife back in the 80s in Altadena, the Watson School of Dramatic Art.